Hi. This is Lillian Chukura with Lily Legal, where we help our clients get green cards and citizenship for themselves and their families using the U.S. immigration law system. So today, I am going to be talking to you about how to get a green card in the U.S. after you overstay your visa. Because what typically happens is people come into the US and they may change their mind about going back to their home country, and they're just not sure how they can get a green card and be able to stay here permanently in the US. So today I'm going to be going over the options available and how you can go about applying for these options. Okay. If you have questions, as always, you can ask me in the comments, and you can always schedule a consultation with me by going to my website, lilylegal.com, or by calling my office at 508-443-1788. So let's get right into it. So the first option that's available is I have a list, so that's what I was bring it over. So the first one is the one that people are most familiar with, which is filing through a spouse, right? If you are married to a U.S. citizen, you can file for a green card through your spouse and be able to get a green card that way. So what does that look like? You came into the U.S., let's say with a visiting visa, a B1, B2 visa, and you decided to stay and not leave, even though you were only given 6 months, right? Now you're married to a US citizen, they can file for you. And the fact that you overstayed your visa is waived. And the only reason that it's waived is because your spouse is a US citizen. If your spouse was not a US citizen, that overstay will not be waived, right? You will need a waiver. So if your spouse is a permanent resident, this is not, you cannot get the green card in the US if you have overstayed your visa. Okay? Just want to make that clear. If you overstay your visa and your spouse is a permanent resident and not a US citizen yet, and you go ahead and apply for a green card, you will not be able to get that in the US because your spouse is not a US citizen, and you do not get that automatic waiver that US citizens get. There are, like I always tell people, there are benefits to being a US citizen, and this is one of them. So if you're married to someone that has overstayed and you yourself are a permanent resident and you qualify for citizenship, it may be time to go ahead and apply for citizenship, because you will then be able to file for them and they would not need to leave the US. Again, if the only issue with the case is that they overstayed. Okay, so I want to make that clear. The next option, which is not talked about, is when you have US citizen children that are 21 years old and older. Okay. US citizen children get the same benefits as if you as the married to US citizen. So US citizen children can only file for their parents when they turn 21. Okay. If you have a 19-year-old US citizen child, unfortunately, they cannot file for you until their 21st birthday. That's when they legally can file for you. That's just that's just how it works. Okay, that is the requirement that USCIS has, that they must be 21, right? Then they have to be a US citizen. So if your child is still a permanent resident, right? If the child is still a permanent resident, then the conversation again about becoming a US citizen in order to be able to file for the parent needs to happen, because again, US citizens have this built-in waiver for their spouses and their parents because they are considered immediate relatives. Okay, remember, spouses and parents are considered immediate relatives of US citizens. Children under 21, right? Children under 21 are considered immediate relatives of their US citizen parents. So once the child turns 21, they are no longer considered immediate relatives, which means they do not get the waiver. So if you are a US citizen and you have a child that's under 21 that has overstayed a visa, right? They have overstayed their visa, they currently don't have status, and you want to file for them, understand that you should be doing that before they turn 21, because once they turn 21, they are no longer considered immediate relatives, and the fact that they overstayed the visa is no longer waived. Okay? So, spouses of US citizens get the overstay waived. Parents of US citizens over 21 have their overstay waived. Children of US citizens under 21, right? The child is under 21, get their overstay waived. So it's really important that you pay attention to those little details. And when people come to me, we really go through and figure out, is any of these an option, right? Are any of these an option for you? And if it is, how can we get it going? Okay. If your child is not 21 yet, they're 20, and you know that they would eventually be filing for you, it might be time to start thinking about what documents you're going to need, how much is the process going to cost, saving up the money, getting the documents, especially if you need documents that are outside of the US, you want to get a head start on that. So hiring a lawyer before the child turns 21 to kind of help you get everything you need ready to go, so that once your child is now 21, you're able to file for them. Alternatively, for people that are permanent residents and are applying for citizenship, just know you can go through that process of preparing to file and knowing that you have to wait till you're sworn in and have your certificate of naturalization before you can file for your spouse. But keep in mind, you can file for your spouse once you're a citizen and have that overstay waived. Okay, that's really important because a lot of people think once they overstay their visa, there's no longer an option. Your options get limited. Okay, I'm not going to sit here and tell you, oh, if you overstay your visa, you're still fine. No, your options are limited. However, it does not mean you don't have options. Okay, just because your options are limited doesn't mean you no longer have options to be getting your green card. Okay, so the next option, depending on your particular situation, your country, the situation that you are getting away from, is asylum. So if you have a fear of persecution in your home country, and either you've been persecuted in the past based on race, gender, ethnicity, religion, all the protected grounds, if you have that fear and you can articulate what the fear is, who is after you, can you get government protection? There's all these analysis that has to go in, but that is an option to get a green card eventually, is by applying for asylum. So asylum has a 1 year deadline. So with asylum, when you come into the US, you have 1 year from your entry, especially if you come in on a visiting visa. Let's say you come in on a F1 visa, right? And you go to school, you maintain your F1 status, and then when your F1 ends, you have something happen in your home country that makes it impossible for you to go back because you are afraid for your life, because you fear that you'll be persecuted. So if you're in that situation, that 1 year starts counting when you lose that status. So it's not from when you came in with an F1. So just keep that in mind. But people that enter on a B1, B2 visa is from your entry. So when you land in the US, you have 1 year to apply for asylum, unless you can show a change in circumstances. So being for example, right? This is a recent thing that has happened as of last year. So people from Afghanistan were not applying for asylum, or may not have had basis to apply for asylum before. However, when the US withdrew from Afghanistan, and now the Taliban has taken over the country, people that weren't afraid before because there was US troops on the ground, now that there's no longer US troops, they may be afraid to go back and fear that they will be persecuted. So that's something that's a change in the country's condition that allows the person to then apply for asylum, even though they may have been in the US, overstayed their visa for like 10 years, right? Because that change in the circumstances just happened, they're able to still apply for the asylum. However, pay attention to the date. If the change in circumstance happens, October 1st, 2021, you have until a year from that to apply for asylum if you're saying that it's based on changed circumstances. Okay. So pay attention to the dates. But once your asylum is approved, you can apply for your green card 1 year after that asylum approval. Okay. So, really important that you know you have options, especially if you fear persecution. The next option is VAWA, right? This is an option for individuals that have been abused by their US citizen or permanent resident spouse, um, by their US citizen child that's over 21, or by their US citizen or permanent resident parent. Okay. So when people talk about VAWA, they're only talking about, through marriage, right? You are in an abusive marriage. However, relationships that lead to abuse take different forms. It can be a parent abusing a child, right? It can be a child abusing a parent as well. So just know there are options available in those situations as well, not just abuse in a marital relationship. But of course, there's caveats because for you to apply for VAWA because of abuse from your child, one, your child has to be a US citizen, right? Because only US citizens can apply for their parents, right? So that's number one. Your child has to be a US citizen, and your child has to be over 21 because only US citizen children over 21 can apply for their parents. So all those requirements still have to be met. But now, instead of your child filing for you, you will be filing a self petition because of the abuse that you have suffered. So it is so, so, so important that you know that an overstay does not mean you no longer have options. I work with individuals that have been in abusive relationships. I have worked with individuals that are happily married and can't wait to start their life together, except for the fact, right? They're ready to start their life together, except for the fact that one of the one of the spouse does not have legal status in the US, and they want to know, how do we go through this process? How do I get my spouse status so that we can actually build a life together, so that we can take trips together, so that they can work legally, right? That's something that people really don't talk about or think about, is that there is so much stress on people when it comes to their finances, especially when they're married to someone that is undocumented, because of the fact that they cannot work legally, and the jobs that they are able to get is not going to pay as much as someone that does have status. So I am happy to always go over these and let people know that they do have options. Okay. If you have questions for me, feel free to put them in the comments. Ask me questions. I'm happy to answer them. Um, If there's something specific that I have talked about, again, I'll go through what the options are again. So if you have questions about something specific there, go ahead and ask me. If you want to schedule a consultation to see if you qualify under one of these options, go ahead and do that as well. My contact information is always either in the description or on my page. So feel free to reach out. I'm happy to answer your questions. Okay. Now, ways to get a green card, even if you overstay your visa. First one, marriage to a US citizen. Everyone knows this one. Marriage to a US citizen. Second one, having a child that's 21 and older that is a US citizen. They can file for you. Applying for asylum based on persecution either in the past or you fear that you will be persecuted in the future. Keeping in mind that there's a 1 year deadline unless there's changed circumstances. And as long as you file within a year of that changed circumstance, you should still be able to get asylum. And then a year after the asylum is granted, you will then be able to apply for a green card. Okay. The next options are VAWA. So if you are the spouse of a US citizen or permanent resident and that US citizen or permanent resident abused you, you can apply for VAWA and then green card based on the abuse you suffered in that relationship. If you are the parent of a US citizen child that's over 21 and you suffered abuse on the hands of your child, you can also apply for VAWA and green card based on that abuse. If you are the child of a US citizen or permanent resident, you can also apply for VAWA if that parent abused you. Okay, so those are the options that are available to you. To individuals that have overstayed their visas. It is important to know what these options are because like I always say, it's better to have this knowledge than not, because you never know when you're going to need it or when you're going to meet someone that's going through a situation and you want to help but you don't know how. Well, this should give you a quick breakdown. You can share this video with people so that they're able to see what their options are. And, without you telling them, hey, you can do this, you can send them the video, let them look at it and say, oh, wait, I may fit into this or I may fit into that. So let me, you know, consult with a lawyer and see what my options really are. So options. You have options. That's basically what I want to get through to you today. Sorry, y'all. The people were watching on Facebook and YouTube. Things just went off a little bit, but we are back. But yeah, you have options. Share this with people and help them see that they have options as well. Okay. So that is all I have for you today. Thank you so much for joining me. As always, if you have questions, go ahead and put it in the comments. Even if you're watching this on the replay, I am always happy to respond to your questions. If you would like to schedule a time to talk to me confidentially, you can do that by calling my office at 508-443-1788 or visited my website at lilylegal.com. Actually, if you go on my website on the contact us page, you can see when I'm available and you can schedule right on there. So I try to make it super easy for you to get the help that you need. So, like I said, that is all I have for you today. Remember, if you like this video, hit the like button. If you know someone who needs to hear this, please share this video with them. And if you are listening in a place where you can subscribe and you don't want to miss any of my uploads, please go ahead and hit the subscribe button. And once again, I am Lillian Shukura. I am an immigration lawyer at Lily Legal, and we do immigration law. And one, we enjoy it, but most importantly, we do it well. All right. Thank you so much, and I will see you next time. Bye for now.